Okay, in this video I'd like to discuss the injector balancing. This is something that's pretty crucial if you're looking to make much more than about 240 horsepower. So for the turbo guys, this is a must. For the big motor / nitrous guys, or even stock motor, stock bore that are running quite a bit of nitrous, in order to get the max fuel flow out of both sets of injectors, you need to know how the injector balancing works. So if I've already got a 2008 map loaded, I can click on the advanced settings button. Under this miscellaneous maps here, we have injector balance map editing. It actually gives us a little hint as to how this stuff works. But if I open it up here, okay, you're going to see throttle position across the top, engine RPM going down the side. At the top you can see we're in mode A. If I hit the B button, we'll be in mode B. C button in mode C. A gets me back. I can use the M button to get me MS0, MS1. I would say it's highly recommended if you're at the stage where you're messing with injector balance mapping that you should probably only be tuning in A map. You can start getting into a lot of funny things if you're using A, B, and C. You have fuel tuning, ignition tuning, secondary throttle plate, injector compensation, that kind of thing. You can get yourself in a situation where you don't know what you're doing and hurt the motor. So anyway, like I said, we have throttle position across the top, engine RPM down the side. The numbers that you see here are what percent of the total fuel contribution the lower or primary injectors are contributing. So what this means is you can see at idle, and basically 0 to 1.9 would all be considered idle. You can see that no matter what engine RPM, that the lower injectors are doing all of the work. So this would be similar to a gen1 Busa or anything with 4 injectors. The lowest injectors are the ones that are performing most of the work here. You can see that the upper injectors don't start getting phased in until the earliest point would be 40% throttle at 5600 RPM. At that point, the upper injectors are only doing 2% of the entire work, so basically nothing still. And if we scroll all the way over here, where we see a number of 20, that means that the lower injectors now are only doing 20% of the total fuel flow. The upper injectors are doing 80%. Okay, this is one of the issues with Power Commander products. If you're only using one Power Commander and you want to be able to adjust your idle and your part throttle stuff, that has to be done on the lower injectors because they do all of the fueling there. Then the issue becomes when you start doing wide open throttle tuning. You can see at red line here, if you need to add substantial fuel, say you needed to add another 10% total fuel flow to the bike for a pipe or an air filter or whatever, in order to get 10% would not, in a Power Commander map, would you have to put a 50 in there because you're only playing with the lower injectors, which are only doing 20% of the entire work. So when you see on some of the boards and whatnot, when we're doing lots of fuel flow, like my bike that made over 350 horsepower with stock injectors, everyone's saying injector balance of 80-20, which is stock at wide open throttle. We're seeing the uppers do 80%, lowers do 20%, or we're talking 50-50, which that's how you get the maximum fuel flow. On my bike, basically the upper and lower injectors were very near 100% duty cycle. In this range here, when I was at about 18 pounds of boost. So what you want to do for that is any number in this table that is less than 50, we want to make it a 50. By doing that, that will split the workload of the injectors when there's a big fuel demand, which is pretty much going to happen, I would say in this range here, and allow us to get both sets of injectors, up near 100% duty cycle. So in this table, you can use the plus and minus button, as well as the division or asterisk and division. But for demonstration's sake here, we can go in and use the plus button and bump up groups of cells at a time. And the last cell, 15,000 RPM, for whatever reason, you can't adjust that one up, but it doesn't matter because you're never going to hit that point anyway. So what I'll do here again, like I said, any place I see that's less than a 50, I'm going to make it a 50. Scroll down here, hold the plus button. This is basically a 50-50 injector balance map. This is what the injector balancing map looks like on my in my turbo map that made over 350 horsepower with stock injectors with a 1-to-1 fuel regulator, 42 psi fuel pressure. So that shows you that the capacity of the Gen 2 bike is quite substantial in comparison to the Generation 1 bikes with basically half the injector capabilities.